Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt. I am the AmeriCanadian Gamer, and today I have a little bit of a game theory discussion for you today regarding Call of Duty Ghosts. And if you couldn't tell from the title, I'm going to talk about why and how I think the dog is going to die. Now, it should be pretty obvious at this point that the dog will probably die sometime in this trilogy. I'm assuming also that Ghosts is the beginning of a new trilogy because they've created this quote-unquote new world for Ghosts to take place in, so why not make it the beginning of a new trilogy, especially since they just got finished doing a successful trilogy. So, what I'm envisioning is that the dog will eventually die because in all of these post-apocalyptic style stories of any kind, when you have a dog, or in a lot of stories, the buddy cop stories, any kind of story involving a dog, usually the dog has to die at the end, or something happens to the dog. Even in the family movies, in the kids movies, something usually happens, the dog usually dies, to be sad, or to be a twist, predictable twist, but it usually happens. And also, COD is known for putting in these shock moments into their games. I remember the first time I really experienced that wow moment in a game, modern game, was in Call of Duty 4, when they nuked the main character and then he died and you just saw his last breath. You experienced it while the mushroom cloud went up in the background. And at the time, that was like, wow, I can't believe they did that. They put you in the shoes of this character, you played as him, and then they killed him off unexpectedly like that. And you also know that you would have lived if you hadn't gone back to try to rescue that downed chopper, and there's all sorts of stuff. It was like, wow, that's cool. And then it happened again, and again, and again, and they kept doing stuff. They killed off Soap. Spoiler warning. They did a lot of stuff, and it's like, well, now it's just expected, what are we supposed to think about this? So obviously, it's pretty clear that the dog probably will meet some kind of unfortunate fate throughout the trilogy. Now, the way I'm planning out or in my head at least planning out the trilogy, in my head, is that the very first one is going to introduce the world and introduce the state of the U.S. and everything that's at stake. You're going to meet all of the main ghosts, you're going to meet the figureheads of the U.S. military who's left of the political power, you're going to learn what state the country is in as far as what's left, what are the strongholds of power, is there any form of resistance, any form of militia. You're going to learn really who are fighting in the depths of their power. And we're going to go through, and it's going to be a game of showing the enemy that the U.S. isn't going down that easily in that game. And the second game is going to be about the enemy saying, yeah, right, and coming back and just wiping out everything that the U.S. has left. Coming back the same way they did at the end of Gears of War 2 when you sink Jacinto. That was the last bastion of humanity on Sarah, and you sunk Jacinto. And I think that's what's going to come back. Something similar is going to happen in Ghosts 2, is that whatever your last stronghold, the last big military base or political power base is going to get completely wiped out. And Game 3 is going to be the Ghosts scrambling and the U.S. military scrambling, the resistance scrambling, trying to get back on its feet and fight this desperate fight when they're up against the ropes like that, when they're backed into the corner. That's how I'm picturing everything going out, and that's important because I think throughout the second game, someone's probably going to sacrifice themselves at the end of the second game to do something, and then throughout the third game, and probably some of the second game as well, and maybe in the first one too, I wouldn't be surprised, they're going to slowly kill off these ghosts, one by one. They're slowly going to kill them off, and eventually we're only going to be left with one ghost and the dog. And the ghost will be the one that players most are familiar with, the ones they identify with the most, the same way you identified with Price, how you played as Price at the very end of Modern Warfare 3. Spoiler warning again. I'm sorry, I just like saying that, but that's how I envision this going out, and then you having to infiltrate some kind of facility, maybe not even on U.S. soil, to take out the big bad guy, the enemy general, or the enemy political power figurehead that is running all of this, cutting the head off the snake, which, that really doesn't work the way people think it does, but it makes a good story point, and it gives somebody for the people to identify against and rally against, and it gives the bad guy a face to defeat, and it makes you feel accomplished when you defeat that face. So, you're going to go after the big bad. This is how I'm picturing it. It's going to be the guy and the dog go after this big bad guy as one final last drastic attempt to not wipe out the enemy, but, end the conflict. And they're going to swap back and forth between the player and the dog. You're going to play as the player, and then you're going to do a little segment, then you're going to play as the dog and do a more stealthy segment, because we know that the dog's playable. We've seen stuff from it, which is honestly kind of cool. And what's going to happen is you're going to get to the end, there might be a chase scene, there probably will be a chase scene of some kind of car chase, a boat chase, whatever, and it's going to come down to the guy and the dog versus the big bad, the same way that we saw at the end of Modern Warfare 2 of Soap and Price versus Shepard. And something's going to happen to give the big bad the upper hand, same way Shepard had the plane crash in the dust and got the upper hand against Soap and Price and started winning that fight until, you know, that little scene of, oh, I'm going to pull this knife out of my chest and throw it and still somehow survive despite the fact that it's in a pretty bad spot. But anyways, that aside, what's going to happen is the bad guy's going to get the upper hand and the dog's going to have to sacrifice itself to save the main character so the main character can win the day and avenge the dog. But here's the thing, you're going to be playing as the dog when it happens. That is what I'm saying. I'm saying you're going to be playing as the dog when this happens. When the dog goes, whether it's in the first game, the second game, or the third game, you're going to be playing as him when he gets killed, and then you're going to swap back over to the other character, probably the main character, and it's going to be the end of the game. So I'm pretty much running short on time right now. I hope you enjoyed this. I got another game theory coming out soon that I'm working really hard on for Destiny. I think you might enjoy this one coming out. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt, and I will see you next time.